What's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to show you how to light up your miniz like a Christmas tree. In this video we're going to go over how I make my own headlights and taillights for miniz car bodies and how to set up digital LED underglow lights for them as well. First off, I'm just going to let you know that I don't do any serious racing or anything. I just like to build these things for fun as a hobby and drive them around with my family and friends. That's why I built 2 race cars and 2 drift cars so others can drive against me. If you do race miniz in local tournaments, then you might be curious to know how much weight the LEDs add. The headlights and taillights together will be around 2 to 3 grams, and if you also include the digital LEDs in the mounting tape, you are looking at around 6 to 8 grams of extra weight added to the body of the car, which will most likely affect its racing performance. When it comes to the drift car builds, the added weight is not a big deal, and they look great in action like something you would see in a Need for Speed game or a Fast and Furious movie. Anyways, I'm going to show you how to wire these up on a stock MR03, a stock MA020, and a custom 2S LiPo MR03 brushless build. The digital LEDs underneath can be controlled from your phone with a Bluetooth module you can add to the rccar. It's pretty small and lightweight, but unfortunately you'll have to do some soldering if you want to do these mods. There's also another module you can get without Bluetooth that has manual button control, and I'll demonstrate that later. But first, let's go over the headlights and taillights and how I make them. There's multiple sizes you can choose from that come pre-wired or not, depending on what you need, and I usually go with the pre-wired ones since it makes it much easier. I found these on Amazon, and they make things a lot easier. They're really small. I got them red and white. Let's see, and they come with these little resistors, depending on what voltage you want to use for the LEDs. So obviously I'm using around 5 volt, and I've been using these for the red and the white. Same resistors, they give 1 per LED, so 25 resistors, you know, the pack of 25 LEDs, but really you can actually use 1 per 2 LEDs. So I run, you know, one of these with every 2, and I don't have to use as many. And then I pre-wire them up because they are kind of long, so I make them a little bit shorter. Let's see. And you know, solder in 2 of the resistors in there, and then throw some heat shrink over them so they don't touch anything. And then, depending on what the body, you know, like this body, I got to drill out the holes for the headlights. But they'll lay right there. And this will plug into the car. It's very, very lightweight, very small. Same with the taillights. Just lay them in back there. Just tape them down, line them up, put tape over them so the light doesn't leak out. And that's all you really need to do for the headlights and taillights. This is my little tester, little 5 volt regulator, and this is the other module for the digital LEDs. Button controllers, the 3 different buttons, up, down, and then you can change colors and stuff. So it's all on there. Actually changes speed, that's what it is. But yeah, I put in, you know, 2 to 4S through here and spits out 5 volts. And I also have different connectors for different testing, but this is for the digital LEDs. But I can plug in these headlights and taillights right now and give you a quick little sample. That's all you gotta do to make these. It's pretty easy. But yeah, like I said, if you want to make them, though, you gotta know how to solder. How to put a heat shrink over everything so you can't really see the solder joints or anything. But that's what you gotta do if you want to make these things by hand. These also come with other size resistors. You know, other than the 3.5 to 5 volt, there's like 9 volt to like 14 volt. So if you want to go higher up in voltage, they can. And they're 06, 03 size LEDs, so very, very small. And they come with like glue, like they're dipped in glue. So they have a little protective coating. Yeah, so it's a little glob of glue on them, and you know they're pretty good. They hold up, but some of them can break off here and there, and you can solder back on, but it's kind of tough. But yeah, so just to let you know, they come with different size resistors, different voltages, and I mean they give 25 of each, so it's like they give you like 75 resistors or more in there. So depending on what you're using them for, they give you enough for any application. So just want to make sure I threw that out there. I'll put the description, or I'll put link down in the description to where I got these on Amazon. Before I found those little ones, I used to use ones that are bigger like this. A little bit different type of wire and no protective coating on them. And these are 1206 size, but they don't come with any resistors either, so you would need to get your own, because these things are pretty easy to burn out if you don't have the right size resistors. So that's one thing to keep in mind, no matter what size little LED you're going to use. So just always remember that, depending on what you're going to do with them. But yeah, I just wanted to show these as well. So if you want to go bigger, you can get some like this. They're on Amazon as well. So I'll put the link down below. The best way to power the LEDs on the stock miniz is right on the main board. You need a little 4-pin connector that some of them actually come with if your car body already comes with LEDs from the factory. But it's like a pH 1.5 millimeter connector, I think. I'm just guessing it because it looks bigger than a 1.25. So yeah, it's like a hard to find little connector. So if you want to run them on the main board, you're going to need one of those. And then you're going to have a little connector on the other end to plug in the headlights and taillights, and I use the tiny little 1.25 millimeter connectors. I just solder those on, and that makes it pretty easy to connect and disconnect the headlights and taillights whenever I need. But yeah, you're gonna need one of those so you can get power right from this main board, because that board feeds 5 volts to them. But that's how you power the headlights and taillights. On this guy, it's a little bit different. I don't have one of those connectors on this board. So how I would have to do it with this one is I would either have to have 5 volt coming off that board if it puts out 5 volt. Since I have so many LEDs on there, I actually have a little 5 volt regulator, buried deep in there. That's actually powering everything that's on 5 volt. So those are a couple of things to keep in mind when you want to power the LEDs on them, like how you would power them, how you can power them. But yeah, that's how I do it. Also, on the stock minizs, the LED connector is fully functional to where you can have the headlights all the way solid, or you can have them on flashing, and you can change that from a little knob on the remote. And then the taillights are actually, they actually brake when you push the brake on the remote as well. So they're actually fully functional brakes. So they flash, they light up when you put the brakes on, which is pretty neat. I can actually demonstrate that real quick. I'll just connect everything up for you. Nice, you can see how annoying this part is. So. I keep all the wires and stuff pretty short, so it's a tight squeeze. Turn this bad boy on. All right, so headlights on, have them blinking slow. Fast. And all the way solid. And then of course the taillights are just on. And then if you want to Yep, so that's how those work. It's pretty nice. Okay, now let's talk about the digital LEDs. I first started my search for tiny little LED strips years ago for my micro drones I was building. And I ran across some 2.5 millimeter wide LED strips that came in just, like one color. So you can get them like blue, red, white, or whatever. And I used to put those on my drones. And then eventually when I got miniz, I noticed that they were small enough to fit on the body as like a neon kit. And so I first tried that out, and then while I was looking for different colors online, I ran across digital LED strips, and actually 3 millimeter wide digital LED strips, which I didn't even realize they had digital ones that were this small. And you really need at least like 3 millimeters or less if you want to use these on the miniz bodies, so they just fit inside on the body in between the rccar and the side walls and stuff without getting like in the way. So these are actually pretty awesome. I ran across these, but at first I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to use them because you need a module to work them. And I actually found these two things online. This one's actually a push button module, like I was saying, to where you can change the colors, and it comes with like 60 different preloaded color combinations built into the thing. So you can just change the colors by going up and down, and then the speed of the colors changing is the middle button. And then I found this little guy, which is actually the Wi-Fi module, and you can actually put this on the car and then hook up an app on your phone and then actually change the colors on your phone or from your phone on the app. And there's like 140 different color combinations on there. And you can also, I think, upload songs onto the app too, and you can play music, and the lights will change like, to the music and stuff. And you can also do regular, just solid colors and everything as well. So I do like these. That's why I put one on each one of my cars. I take them out of their heat shrink, and then I just solder them up onto the car, and then they stay there. So whatever voltage you run into them will come out of them. So if you put 5 the 24 volt in, it'll shoot out 5 to 24. So if you have 5 volt LEDs, you do not want to put anything higher than 5 volt in this thing because it'll spit it out. And if you put like 12 volt in, it will burn out those 5 volt LEDs. There's no regulator built into here to step the voltage down or anything. So that's something to keep in mind. I already took one out of the heat shrink right here so you can get a better look of the board. There's not much going on in the bottom. But yeah, I just desolder those two and then desolder these. And then hook up a connector on here and then hook up to 5 volt power on the car. And that's it. So first, let me demonstrate how the little manual button controller looks with these LEDs. Okay, plug it in. There we go. Yes. All right. So this is just going through all the colors. All right, let's see. So we're going this way. And I'm just gonna go through each one, you know, kind of quick, just so you can get an idea. And also you can slow them down or speed them up with the middle button. This is the slowest. I think there's 7, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That should be the fastest. You get the idea. There's a lot of different ones you can choose from. All right, we're back to the beginning. Okay, so yeah, that's how this little manual button controller looks. It's a little bit longer than the Wi-Fi module. I got heat shrink over it, so you really can't see. So if you do put that one on a car, it's long and skinny, so you gotta find a place to put it. I put these on the back of the car sideways. I'll show you in a minute. While this one you wouldn't be able to put sideways. Well, you could, but it's really close to touching the wheels, so you probably want to put it long way on the along the middle of the body somewhere if you don't want to use a Wi-Fi one. So that's how that looks. I'll show you the Wi-Fi app and everything here in a second. These are also the newer version of the LED strip. I think it has like 96 LEDs per meter, while the old version had about 60 LEDs per meter. Here, I think I have a sample. So yeah, these are the old ones. One of my drones. Let's see if I can get to focus right. So yeah, you can see it's almost like 3 LEDs per every 2 of the old version. So. Which is nice because then, you know, the patterns look a lot better because the LEDs are a lot closer. And obviously there's more light coming from them because there's more LEDs in general. And plug this guy in, I guess. So, yeah, see, they're great on drones too. So, yep. All right. But yeah, I'm using these newer versions now. I'm not going to use the older 60 LED version anymore because I like having more LEDs. And yeah, where I get these from are from a website called superlightingleds.com. And that's where I get the Wi-Fi module and the other little click button module and all the LED strips. They have bigger ones, smaller ones, all kinds of different types. So if you're interested in LEDs and other things of that nature, you can go to their website and check out what stuff they have. So it's superlightingleds.com. So yeah, that's where I get everything. And also I think Amazon has the Wi-Fi modules in there as well. So if you want to get those off Amazon, you can do that. So the LEDs say they're rated for 5 volts, but through some testing I found out they can actually handle over 8 volts because I put 2S through them, 2S LiPo battery, and they actually didn't burn out and they just got a little bit brighter. So if you do want to run them a little bit brighter, you can go a little bit higher than 5 volts, but I found out that if you go all the way to 12 volts, that'll be too far because they will blow on 12 volt. I know from experience. So do not put 12 volt into them, it will blow them out, but it can handle up to 2S, so you can put about 8.4 volts into them. Because that's a fully charged 2S LiPo, and they don't burn out, and they actually are a little bit brighter than they would be on 5 volt. So I figured that out, because these are the things I needed to keep in mind when mounting this little Wi-Fi module onto the cars. Like I said, whatever voltage you run through it, it'll put out. So it doesn't have a 5 volt regulator built into it. So whatever power I put onto it from the RC car will come out of it. Now when it comes to stock miniz, like the MR03 here, the voltage for 4 fully charged AAA batteries is not going to be any higher than 6 volts. So technically the LEDs can run just straight off of the AAA batteries. They can work on voltages lower than 5 volts, but they eventually start flickering and going out once you get closer to 4 volts. So, or maybe in 4.5 volts, I'm not really too sure. But once it gets lower than 5 volts, they do start actually losing their ability to function correctly. So if you're going to run them straight off of the AAA batteries, just know that you have a limited amount of time until the LEDs start to flicker and go out. Because they do consume a lot of power, not a ton of power, but they do add up. All the little LEDs, they consume about 15 to 20 milliamp per hour per light, I think. So if you got 30 or more, it starts to add up. That's why I run little 5 volt 1 amp regulators to power them if the cars can't power them directly from the battery. But yeah, so I just run them straight off the AAA batteries on here. I mounted it on the back with some double-sided tape. I soldered on these little connectors. I get packs of these connectors, the male and female ends, and then just solder those on. It's one connector to this guy, and then the other connectors go to the car bodies, and so they'll all have this end to plug into, and then the power just coming straight from the main board, right where it would be coming from the AAA batteries. So that's how a stock miniz would be if I'm running the digital LEDs right off the main power. If I wanted to use something that spit 5 volts out, like I have this step up, step down regulator on here right now, which is actually for my FPV setup, first person view, for I put a little camera on here and transmitter and drive it around first person. This takes voltage that's lower than 5 volts and turns it into 5 volts, because my cameras only run on 5 volts and they can't really run on a lower voltage, so I always have to have 5 volts. And since AAA batteries will run down below 5 volts, I need a step up regulator, but this one's a step up and step down. So since we're starting at 6 volts, And, you know, I need something that can handle higher than 5 volts, and then once it drops below 5 volts to be able to continuously put out that 5 volts without losing power, so I can keep my FPV feed going even when the car starts getting lower on battery. So that's how all that works. When it comes to the MA020, it's pretty much the same exact thing. It's just a slightly different configuration. I have to tape it back here. It's actually pretty nice. It has this little area. It's a good little seat for it. I just, you know, put the connectors on it, throw some heat shrink on there, and then just run the power directly off of the main battery lines inside there. I take off the plastic here and then solder it on, and then put the plastic case back on, and that's it. And then I have another step up, step down right here for my FPV gear. And then this would be for the headlights. This one's for the taillights, like you saw earlier. And that's really all you have to do for stock Mini-Zs if you want to run them right off the main battery. And of course, like I said, you could add another step up, step down like I have for my FPV, and just have it on there for the LEDs if you want, if you're not going to do like something like I'm doing with FPV. When it comes to this guy, I mean, I'm already running 2S on here, so it runs 8.4 volts. I'm actually running the power directly from the batteries to the little Wi-Fi module on this one. So this is where I found out that the LEDs actually do handle 8 volts, and I really wasn't paying attention. I should have ran these off one of the 5 volt regulators, but I was already using them for the headlights and the FPV and everything, and I just didn't want to overdo one of those regulators with the digital LEDs. So I also have a little switch right here, so this little module to turn the headlights and taillights on and off. Since this is not a main Mini-Z like stock board, it doesn't have the, you know, the ability to do the brakes on and off and, you know, the flashing headlights or whatnot. It doesn't have that at all. So I can just hook up to this receiver one of these little switches right here. Yeah, so electronic switch, and it'll just turn the power on and off on the switch on my receiver. So I'll hook it up to like an open channel, open auxiliary, like channel 3, 4, or 5 or whatever, and then I hook that up to the power line to the LEDs, or actually it's to the headlights and taillights, to be honest, because I can actually turn the LEDs on and off through the Wi-Fi app. But for the headlights and taillights, I have it hooked up to a switch, so I can turn the headlights and taillights on and off with a switch on my radio. So I have it hooked up to where it'll turn on and off on this switch. So I'll show you that in a little bit. But yeah, so they can handle 2S. I mean, I would suggest just putting a 5 volt regulator and running them off 5 volt, but I'm just letting you know that so far they have worked straight off of a 2S LiPo battery. And you know, that's how this one is set up compared to the stock Mini-Zs. Actually, I was wrong. This one actually has a 5 volt regulator down in there, and the digital LEDs are running off that 5 volt regulator, and not the 2S battery. The WL Toys K969 that I actually have this Wi-Fi module right here that is running off the 2S battery, and that's the one that actually proved to me that they can run off 2S, because I don't have a 5 volt regulator running this Wi-Fi module. I just have it for headlights, taillights, and FPV as well. But yeah, this one's gonna get remodeled here soon. So, but yeah, this video is not about the K969. No, it's about Mini-Zs. I just wanted you to know that this is where, yeah, I tested the 2S on the Wi-Fi module and it worked. So, just giving you a heads up. Next, I'm gonna go over how I mount everything onto the bodies. So I usually start over here and, you know, measure out how many LEDs you're going to need for each side of the car. With these new LEDs, it's about 7 to make it across most of the cars. Well, at least on the sides. The backs vary depending on the body. But yeah, I usually cut the strips down depending on how many I need. You just cut right in the middle of these copper pads, and then you can just solder to them on either end. But you got to go with the flow of the digital signal. So there's tiny little arrows. It looks like, yeah, they're pointing to the left because it's upside down. But yeah, so you got to feed the digital signal through the LEDs to follow those arrows. So wherever I start has to have the arrows going away. So from here, arrows start going this way. So when I plug in from the Wi-Fi module here, it'll start the signal feed and work its way all the way around. So then it'll start here, work its way down that way, and then it stops here. I use really small, I think 30 gauge wire to link these strips together. Yeah, it's real small. It's like one strand of malleable wire, one copper strand or something like that. I just strip off the tips and then solder them on. I just measure the amount that I'm going to need around the wheel well, and then just cut it short and then solder them onto the little strips. Just all 3 wires right there. And that's really all you got to do for these LEDs. Of course, the connector. Let's see where I put it. So yeah, I just got to solder. Just cut this shorter and solder the 3 wires on there. It's only got 3 pads. One's 5 volt ground and digital out. It says DO, so that's the signal. So in the middle is the signal, 5 volt in the bottom, and then ground on top. And you just follow that all the way through between each strip, and the LEDs will light up with no problem. So yeah, I'm going to demonstrate how these things work when they're plugged in here in a minute, and I'll show the Wi-Fi app, on the app, how everything functions, how to change the colors and all that stuff. So I'll do that here in a second. I guess I'll show you how some of the bodies look with the mounting. So yeah, I just mount them in here with double-sided tape. They do have a sticky backing to where you can peel off the little paper, and then it is sticky, so it has its own sticky side to it. But it's not very strong. They will come off of things over time. I use really strong 3M double-sided tape. This is like the 30-pound test stuff, so it's the black tape. It's very strong, so be careful if you ever do use this stuff, because you can rip things apart trying to take it off. But yeah, they're pretty safe for this application. So I just put them along the walls, depending on how high up I need them, because I want them just below the side underneath there, so you can't see them from the sides, but they're low enough to where they shine the most light on the ground. Sometimes you can lay it right on this little side clip, but usually I got to pat it out with some double-sided tape to lift it up higher, and then I just put some double-sided tape along the side there, and they just press it against it on the side, and they pretty much just stay there. They don't move. It's just held there with double-sided tape, and I mess with these all the time, and it stays there pretty well. And then I just run the wires along the wheel well to make sure the wheels don't actually ever touch them, along the headlights. And then headlights and taillights too, I just shove the little LEDs. I had to drill out the holes on this Lambo so I could put those little LEDs in there. And then I just shove the head of the LED in there, and then I just use some of that double-sided tape to hold them into place. And then I just run the wires. For this body, I can't really do the same. I could have maybe, but I didn't do the same setup like one of these. I actually do this on the Skyline. But for like other bodies, sometimes I have to run the whole length to the back to get the connector all the way to the back here instead of having the connector up front. At least for my MR03 setups. It's not the same for my MA020 setup. But yeah, I need all the connectors back here, so I just run the wires and then the little resistor, and connect them together here. And then, so this is for the headlights. And then the taillight one is tucked in back here. And then of course the one for the LEDs, the digital LEDs. Sometimes I start on this side and go around, or that side, I forget sometimes. But either way, it doesn't matter where you really start. I usually just keep the connector in the back because I can shove it up back here out of the way so it doesn't get caught on the wheels, and none of these wires get snagged on anything and then just get ripped apart while I'm trying to drive it. So I try to, keep note of all that while I'm doing this. And overall, these are pretty small and lightweight compared to like the usual old school stock like lights that you used to come with these car kits. Those little like 3mm to 5mm bulbs. Those are just too bulky and just extra weight. These are much better. Like, I mean, look how small they are. I had to drill out 2 holes here for the taillights on this Lambo, which it was tough to really do that because it was already, everything looks nice, pre-painted, and I don't want to mess with stuff, but if you want these lights to work, it's the only way to do it. So I had to pop the red glass out of the way and then take a Dremel or your little hand drill, what do you call it, just a little drill, and then drill out 2 holes just big enough for the LEDs to sit inside, and then I just push the LEDs in place and then put the tape over them and then make sure there's enough tape blocking all the areas that the LEDs shine so they're not shining through the bodies, because if the bodies don't have enough paint on them or anything, and it's depending on the color, the light can shine through the body, and you don't want that. You just want it coming out of where the taillights and the headlights are. So that's how easy it is to do that. It's a little bit different on the Skyline. Like I showed you before, I already had these smaller pre-set up headlights and taillights that I just pressed down right there into place. And that's pretty much it for that. I mean, since I have the connector in the front there and the other connector in the back, I can just keep them short and up, tucked out of the way, up on the hood here. And same with the back, I just have them pressed down all the way in the back here, so where everything's out of the way, it's not gonna get snagged on the wheels or anything. So that's all you have to do for those. With this body, with the McLaren, these light buckets, I already have tiny little holes in them. So I can actually, I feed the LEDs through those holes, and then I have to solder them back here. So yeah, I just put them through and then solder them up all the way back here and add the connector. But yeah, you have to do that if you want to have these little LEDs work on these light buckets. So I just shove them through and then bend them down to where they sit just like that. As you can see. And I mean, they're super bright for how small they are. So that actually works out great for these little light buckets. I don't have to drill any holes or anything. I can just slide the wires right through, bend the light down into place, and then tape them into place, and with the connector and everything, and then that's it. So all the connectors are right back here, right where I want them, just tucked away out of the way of the wheels. Yep, and same with the taillights on this one as well. So they're just tucked in. It's hard to see. But yeah, just taped up against the lights. So when I turn them on, you'll see. Or you've probably already seen them in the beginning or the end of the video. But yeah, that's how those are done. Also, if you need to bend them around a corner, like I did here, you have to bend them on the copper pads in between the LEDs. That's the only way to really get them to curve around a corner. With these newer LEDs, it's a lot tougher because they're closer together now. It was easier on the older models. I think this one has them. So yeah, there's a lot more space between. So it's a little bit easier to make, curved strips. But that's how I do it for the front bumpers. And this is the 30 gauge wire that I was using. It's just multicolored, I think like 8 different strands. And I just picked 3 colors and twist them up. And that's what I use to wire up these LED strips. So this is good stuff. I'll take forever to go through all this. And I think I got it off Amazon. So yeah, that's what I use for that. And let's just take a second to appreciate this one's paint job. Yeah. It's purple and blue flip-flop. It's kind of hard to see in this lighting, but yeah. I love that paint. I got a bunch of other bodies too. bumper mounted wing on this one. 3D printed and then painted it. And of course put all the lights in it. And I'm probably the only one that has a miniz ZR1 that's set up like an undercover cop car. I actually put LEDs in the windshield, about two per window, so another 8. And then I put electrical tape behind them so the light didn't shine through the body and go everywhere, so it looks a little bit more realistic. But yeah, so I just taped those in there, and I used another connector to add them to it, so I can always remove these 8 LEDs and take away the tape if I want to just run the body without those LEDs in there. But this body reminds me of like an undercover cop car, so like the navy blue and the black. It's something I feel like they would try to use to catch people. But yeah, the Wi-Fi module has some really good red and blue flashing sequences that look like real cop lights. While this one doesn't really have any good options to mimic like cop lights, but there's a couple on here. I'll show you like one that's all right. It's not the greatest, but you get the idea. So yeah, it's pretty nice. You can do that. You have cops chasing the racers. It's pretty easy to add on to any car. You could do that with really any car, but this one looked a lot like something the cops would use, so I put it on this body. But I did set up more than one car as an undercover cop car. I did a McLaren F1 as one as well. Because it kind of reminded me of the old school Need for Speed days. Whenever you drove a McLaren, the cops would drive McLarens too to be able to keep up. So if I'm racing one McLaren, then I gotta have a undercover McLaren chasing me. It's just how it is. But yeah, that's how you can set these up. I put 2 in each window back here. So about 10 on this one. But yeah, you can do whatever you want with these LEDs, whatever you come up with. But now, I think it's time to go over the Wi-Fi app for the phone, so I can show you how to use that. So what I'm going to do is plug in all 3 of these guys off camera and get them all turned on, get the radios turned on, so I can also show you the switch for the headlights and taillights and stuff. So I'm going to do that real quick, and then I'll probably dim the lights as well so you can see the LEDs a little bit better, but I don't want them to be too bright for the camera, so I'll leave some light on. But I'm going to go do that right now, and then I'll be right back. Okay, everything's turned on and ready to go, so I can show you how everything works here. First, I'll just start with the headlights and taillights turning on and off on the custom build 2S setup. On and off. So on the remote, let's see if I can do this. See it? Off, on, off, on, off, on. Alright. Yep. Same for taillights. See. Yep, so that's how that works. As you can see, I don't want to blind the camera too much when they're on. Pretty cool. And the headlights. Taillights are really bright. So that just gives you an idea how bright these things can get, or how small they are. Alright, so next step is to show you how the the Wi-Fi app works. So let me get that started. Let me open this thing up. And when you're going to the Wi-Fi, or not Wi-Fi, when you're going to the App Store, you're going to be looking for BandLAN X. Yeah, so that's the app that I use to control the LEDs. Just search in the App Store BandLAN X, it should pop up with that little symbol, and then just download it for free, and open it up. So right now I have it set up on this car, so if you want to change between cars, so right now this is the name of the Wi-Fi module that's in that car. It's the number of the Wi-Fi module, and then I just added 2SZ on there at the end, so I know which one's which. But yeah, it's saying disconnect. It's gonna be hard to see with this light. Let's see. So I'm gonna say OK to disconnect, and then it'll show you the other devices that are available at the time right now. So it's picking up all the other cars. So this is the miniz over here. That was a 2Z and the MA020. I don't think it's picking up the forked one in the back, so I'll have to figure out why that's doing that. But even though it's working right now, I probably haven't calibrated to this phone. I'm actually going to add that device. I got to look for it, so we'll do that in real time. So if you want to add a device, you click on the little plus sign up there, and then click on add device down here, and it's going to scan, and it already noticed that it's there. So the K969, I click on it, let it connect, and now it's connected to that one in the back. So if I wanted to change it and see how it changes everything. Yeah. So it's 1 to 142 different colors, or not colors, but different combinations of colors and sequences. There's too many for me to really go through. So there's stars, gradual snake, green, fire, like there's fire. I actually don't think the colors are calibrated correctly. So I'm going to show you how to calibrate the colors if they're off like that. You go to color calibration, you click on the 3 dots up in the corner, and then it'll pop up with color calibration down here. You just click on color calibration, and then whatever color you see on the car, it asks you to click on the phone. So that's red. And then the next one's green. And then now the colors are calibrated correctly. It's that easy. Right now it's set to dynamic, and that's where it'll, all the different spectrums you can go through. And then there's the speed and the effect length. So the effect length is kind of like the speed too, but it's like the duration or length of how long each sequence takes, while this is actually the speed of like really fast or really slow, like it goes through it. It's kind of weird, but that's how it's set up. So if I'm gonna go up and make it like, so this is like red, yellow fire, supposed to mimic fire. If I actually if the length is increased, it doesn't really make it look like fire as well. It's actually more close to fire when it's down towards this end. So yeah, and then if you want to actually turn them off, this is the brightness of the LEDs, and if you set the brightness all the way to 0, it'll just turn them off. And then if you turn off your phone and leave the app on that and turn off the car and everything, it'll keep that in its memory and always keep them off until you put them back up to brightness on here. So it'll always stay off if I leave it off on there. And then it'll be on when I do this next time. So it's got the memory of the last input that you left it. And then it has, you can favorite ones, so these colors are good for like cop lights. I think this one's probably the best one. Probably go a little bit faster. Yeah, and then I have those in the windshields too on the other bodies, so it looks like real cop lights. Because that's red, it's red blue wave. on this one, so it just flashes red and blue. There's one that's a red, white, and blue snake, which, you know, it's too much red, white, and blue. It doesn't really look the same as like normal cop lights, even though they do have white and red and blue flashing. But I just feel like the red and blue matches, like, you know, cop lights a little better. It doesn't matter. It's all, you know, perspective anyway. But yeah, there's all kinds of different combinations and different you know, types here that I'm not going to go through them all. But you get the idea. If you want to do music, you can go over here to the right where there's music down here. And then you can either, I think you can record your own songs on here. I haven't tried to do that yet, but there's like other songs that are like already pre-downloaded on the app that you can use. And then when you turn, you know, the song on, the car will, you know, bounce and the lights will flash on and off depending on that song. So that's how that works. And if you want to do just regular solid colors, you go to the left side over here, and then you can just pick your, you know, traditional colors. And you can even move this around to kind of get in between those colors too if you want, and make like custom colors. But all the solid colors are here. Yep. So, but I'll leave it on gradient for now, so it goes through all the colors. That's really all you have to do for this app. There's not much else to it. Once you connect them, so you can also rename the device here if you want to name it. That's what I did. You can, you know, change the name. So if you have a bunch of different Wi-Fi modules like I do, you want to make sure you name them so you don't get them all mixed up. But yeah, you can do that. If you want to change to a different one, you say, you know, I just push the arrow up here to the left that says disconnect, and I say okay, and then it'll pop up with all the other ones again. And then I can just click on the one I want to connect to. And now I'm connected to the skyline. That's how easy that is. And I think that's all the features on here that I need to show you. So yeah, I hope that was you know, helpful. There's probably some other apps out there that can also work, but this is the one that I'm using so far that seems to work. I think it's the one that they recommend. They have a little QR code on here. I think you can scan, and I think it's the same app, but I haven't really tried that one yet. So yeah, if you're interested, you know, give that a shot. Try a different app if you want, but you know, 142 different types of lighting sequences is, you know, good enough for me. But there are some other ones I wish that were on here that aren't available, like, you know, that I could use. And then some of the ones that were on the little click button one are not on here. So there's ones that are on that one that are, like, you know, exclusive to that little manual button control, you know, module, while the Wi-Fi module has its own 142 different types, and then music, you know, just solid colors as well. So yep, that's all you have to do for this. If you want to set up these digital LEDs on your phone with the Wi-Fi module on your car, it's that simple. I think that's it for this part of the video. You know, I really appreciate all your time. This is going to be a pretty long one, so if you made it this far, you're a trooper. But I would just like to say thank you. If you have any questions about anything that I've covered, don't be afraid to leave a comment down below, and then I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So yeah, if you're interested in doing headlights, taillights, and any kind of lighting, really, because you don't have to do these lights for just these cars. Like I said, I was putting these on drones and other things as well, and you can put them in your real car if you want to, or, you know, in your house you can get bigger strips. But I'm just giving you the example, you know, at the smallest scale, what you can do with them. So I hope this video was informative. If there's anything else, like I said, just leave something down below, and I hope you have a good day.